Welcome to today's episode of Insights with Us. I'm Anastasia, a licensed professional counselor, owner of Happy Mind Wellness Company, a Colorado-based therapy practice, and a creator of this podcast. My goal is to use this platform to help others find their voice as we share our journeys, and to show support as we learn more about ourselves and life. Growth happens when we get uncomfortable, which happens when we sit with new ideas we haven't sat with before. I hope that we can work on this journey of personal growth and understanding together. As a disclaimer, there may be swearing in this podcast, but sometimes we get caught up in the human experience, it happens, and sometimes we can talk about difficult or activating topics. So maybe put on some headphones if you need to, and remember that support exists for you if you want it. Last episode, we focused on relational attunement and how to build connection within your community and within your relationship. Today, I want to talk about the opposite. I want to talk about some of the barriers that get in the way of connection and some of the ways to navigate them, which I'm going to tell you right now is a hard thing to do, because in relationships, we are often so focused on being heard that we forget that we also need to hear. Even if what the other person is saying might hurt you, there's a reason they're saying it. They didn't care, they just want to walk away. So the fact that they're saying the thing means that they want this relationship to stick around and they are trying. So with that said, let's dive deeper and see if we can create some insight today. Some of my favorite resources for building language and insight around relationship dynamics comes out of the Gottman Institute in Seattle. They have been researching couples since the 1970s and started from a place of, let's see what patterns show up. Over the decades, they have begun to identify and quantify patterns of behavior which can lead to wedges in our relationships, and the patterns of behavior that allow for deepening and strengthening of relationships. I love the Gottman Institute's research, like I said, for language building, for creating a shared meaning, and understanding patterns and dynamics. They are a great place to start. And as you'll learn in a second, if you and your partner can get on the same page about what language to use and what certain words might mean, then it's easier to understand where the other person is coming from, build curiosity, and create a lifeline that connects the two of you together, even when you're feeling off and can't seem to connect in the way that you're used to. If you want more information, the Gottmans are a wealth of it. Oh my gosh, they've got books, they've got interviews, they've got TED Talks, and they love sharing this information. They want all of us to succeed. Like I said, it's a good place to start. And as you start to figure it out, maybe then you can dive deeper into the patterns and the stuff that gets you so stuck. So I'm going to start today by exploring a resource that the Gottmans have named the 4 horsemen of the relationship apocalypse. The 4 horsemen are criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling. I'll go through each and talk about how to navigate them. These horsemen are the types of interactions that have been known to cause wedges in a relationship. Because we're human, our goal is not to get rid of the horsemen altogether, but rather to limit how often they show up within our relationship. And when they do, identify them quickly and navigate them together with our partner as a team. Even if you are the most grounded and curious person on the planet, you will experience some of these horsemen within your relationships because you're 2 separate people choosing to spend extended amounts of time together. Conflict is normal. It's the fighting that we want to change. So how do you feel about getting criticized? I don't like it. It doesn't feel good when it seems like someone is criticizing me. And criticism is one of the first horsemen. It's when someone talks about you or who you are instead of the situation that is bugging them. It could be explicitly placing blame, but it could also be unintentional and just how their comment is phrased. For example, why didn't you take the dog for a walk? Are you lazy or do you just not care? This is very critical because they're basically blaming the person they're talking to instead of having curiosity around what stopped them from walking the dog. If someone feels criticized, the go-to response is to get defensive, which is the second horseman. Keeping with my example from above, the response might be, "It's not my fault. There was a lot going on today. I didn't have time. Why don't you go walk the dog? I've done it the last 3 times." Notice how the response didn't just defend where they're at, but they also lashed out at their partner and put it back on them with more criticism. Criticism and defensiveness tend to cycle in this way, which can lead to an escalation within the conflict. If you feel criticized, you are going to defend, and then you're going to lash back out, which will make your partner defensive and lash back out to you. This is unfortunately a normal pattern that can be hard to break, because if you get defensive, it's hard to want to pause and show up differently. And there's a good chance both of you in this situation feel defensive. So, what are the remedies? Or as the Gottmans put it, the antidotes. The way to challenge or heal criticism, if you are the partner with a problem you want to bring up, you want to come at it gently with tentativeness and curiosity, using I feel statements, not placing the blame, and trying to talk about the situation, not your partner. This could look something like, "Hey, can I check in real quick? You said you'd walk the dog, and I noticed you haven't yet. This is making me feel really pressured and like you expect me to do it. Can you help me understand what stopped you?" One of my favorite gentle startups is actually separating myself from the thought or separating myself from my anxious brain. And it looks something like this. "Hey, so my anxiety is trying to tell me something. And while I know it's not your intention and you are doing your best, I can't seem to drop it. Can we talk about what my anxious brain is telling me so that I can move forward and maybe we can work on it together?" This helps ease the tension. I use fondness and admiration, which is another antidote we'll talk about in a minute, by saying it wasn't your intention, you're doing your best. And I made it about the situation, not about who we are as people. If you find yourself getting defensive anyway, because sometimes we're reacting to the old patterns in our lives and not what is happening right in front of us, the best way to navigate it is to find something, anything that you can own up to. It takes 2 people to be in a conflict, which means both of you can take responsibility for something, whether it's what happened. For example, you're right. I haven't taken the dog for a walk yet. That's my bad. Can I tell you what got in the way? Or maybe it's about how the conversation was brought up. For example, "Okay, I can see that you're getting defensive. I am sorry that I came in hot. I definitely raised my voice. I'm sorry about that. I made some assumptions. Can I try again?" Now, because I'm a therapist and I'm a pretty curious human being, I tend to have a leg up on this work, which means if my partner or my friend or my family member is getting defensive, I'll notice it and I will try really hard to separate us from the conversation. I'll use reassurance and diffusion techniques, and I will repeat that reassurance until it's finally heard. This could look like, "I know you're trying. I hear you and I love you for it. This still hurt me. I'm just trying to process it with you." Or even, "You're right. You're right. You didn't mean to hurt me. I understand that. And this was still my experience and I need you to hear me. Can we talk about how to move forward?" I can even sometimes say things like, "I know it's not true. I know it's not logical at all. And yet my anxiety keeps telling me it is, and I can't just let it go right now. I really want us to process this together. I want to try to validate some of these fears and hurts that I'm feeling so that I can move on. Can you help me?" Again, trying to separate the situation from us as a team. So if one of you is a little bit more insightful than the other, that might help. But also, if you have to do it every single time, can build resentment, because we don't want just one of you to be doing all this work and the other just riding it. You both have to work on this together. And like I said, once these horsemen come into the picture, it can be really hard to notice it in the moment, and especially hard to change the pattern. And this is even harder if you feel like the other person is at fault and they should be the one taking responsibility. Changing the pattern, fighting off these horsemen, take both parties working on it. In fact, in the Gottman's research, they show that the parties most likely to make it are the ones where both partners are trying, followed by the relationships where neither partner is trying, because they're both just riding it out and not trying to change. The partners least likely to make it are the ones where one partner is trying and the other isn't, because eventually the partner who's trying is going to give up. And that just isn't what we want. You're in the relationship for a reason. Might as well try our best to move forward and grow together. And if it isn't right, it isn't right, but at least you know you tried. Now, again, that doesn't mean that you have to do it right every time, because I promise you, you won't. We just want to see effort. Can you try to show up differently? Even if it's several hours after the fact. Now that you're building this language with me, you can say, hey, I've been processing it, and I realized that I got really defensive earlier and couldn't own my part in what was going on. I am so sorry that happened. Can we try again? And this time, I'm going to try my best to hear you and understand your side. Effort is what matters. These wedges, they will show up. It's how you navigate them that makes the difference. So let's talk about the next two horsemen. Contempt is actively putting down or insulting your partner, calling them names like bitch or asshole or jerk, or even attacking their character. For example, I had someone once tell me that I was untrustworthy and that they would never be able to depend on me again. Now, the situation where I was told that, we were in separate cars on a road trip and they pulled off on a blind turn and I didn't see it. And then when I noticed they weren't behind me, I stopped at the next parking lot and waited for them with the plan to turn around if they didn't show up in the next 5 to 10 minutes. They decided that I intentionally left them and that I was at fault and that I didn't care about them. In reality, it was bad timing and an inability to communicate due to no service. They made it about who I was, and there was a huge rupture of trust. I don't interact with this person anymore, and yet I still think about this moment and how much it hurt me. If you attack someone, if you use contempt in the heat of an argument, even if you didn't mean it that way, it is going to hurt, and it's going to stay in their brains until you can move through it together and show them that they can trust you, which means that you're trying to show up differently and not using contempt in your arguments anymore. The best antidote for contempt is fondness and admiration. You can use this to prevent contempt too. If you start the conflict with words of caring and good intentions, it's a lot harder to want to insult or put down the person you're speaking to. This could look like, I appreciate how much you care for me, and I love that you're in my life, and I really need to talk about what just happened because it hurt me. Notice that I didn't say because you hurt me. I said because it hurt me. The thing that happened, the situation, not the person that you are choosing to have in your life. Separate the two. It's important. And even if your partner messed up, they did something horribly wrong, if you show up with contempt, it's suddenly not going to be about the thing that happened. It's going to be about the hurt that just occurred in that moment. And it's going to be really hard to think about the situation you're trying to work through. The final horseman is stonewalling. This is when one or both of you shut down. This can occur after a long period of time. This could happen instantly, depending on how much tolerance a person has in their nervous system. Stonewalling can come from criticism, defensiveness, especially contempt. I know I stonewall if there's any contempt in an argument. And this is often related to being flooded, which, thanks to Gottman research, is quantifiable. If your heart rate gets up to or above 100 beats per minute while in conflict, you're probably flooded. Being flooded means your nervous system is overwhelmed, overstimulated. You cannot take in more information. You have lost your window of tolerance. Anything that you try to say from that point on is going to go right over your head. Nothing is going to be productive once you are stonewalling or flooded. If your partner tells you, I can't take this anymore, or I can't talk about it anymore, it might not be because they don't care or they don't want to find a solution. It's probably because they're flooded. This is a physiological response that we have no control over. Once we are flooded, the only solution is to take a break, to give your body time to reset. And if your partner is constantly chasing you down, saying, we have to talk about it, we can't walk away, how could you not care about this? We need to find a solution. Well, they're not giving your body time to reset. You're going to stay flooded. It's not going to heal. It's not going to work. And nothing your partner says is going to be able to be processed. Again, physiological response, not an intentional choice. Your body needs a minimum of 20 minutes to start resetting. I usually recommend 30 to 60 minutes overnight if you're feeling really overwhelmed. But, and this is the hard part for the person who's flooded, you can't just walk away and not tell your partner what is happening. I still do this. I try really hard not to, but I know I do it. In order to keep that lifeline, that connection open, you need to give your partner context for what is happening. I can't talk about this anymore is going to lead to feelings of abandonment, like you don't care, like it's your choice, versus I'm flooded, I need a break. Can we check in after an hour? Now, if you do this, it's important to remember that you then have to check in after an hour. If you just never return or never let your partner know what your headspace is in, they're going to make up all sorts of ideas in their head about what's really going on. Keep the lifeline open. That check-in isn't going right back to the conversation that led to stonewalling. That check-in means, hey, it's been an hour, I'm feeling better. Are you up for continuing the conversation? Or even, hey, it's been an hour, I'm still feeling pretty flooded. Can we check back in tomorrow at dinner? This way, you are continuing to show up in your relationship and building trust that you will return, while also making it okay to take a break when you need to. I often ask that whichever partner is flooded is the one that returns for the check-in. Even if it means setting a timer and then texting your partner you need more time instead of talking face to face, it is better than just walking away and never saying anything. And if you are flooded and you're taking that time, go for a walk, do some deep breathing, try a guided meditation. Do something that will actually help you calm down. Don't go be productive or focus on something that is also stressful. That's not going to help you feel less flooded. Navigating the 4 horsemen is challenging because they will always show up in our relationships. Again, the goal is to notice them when they do and be able to challenge them or heal them faster and hope they show up less over time. If you don't work on it, or don't build insight into this language I'm giving you today, they can grow and strengthen, and the wedge between you and your partner or whoever you're in conflict with will grow. I'm really hoping that giving you this language today can help you communicate these interactions more effectively. But in case it's not, I want to throw out a couple more concepts and tools that I find helpful. First, and I wish this wasn't our gut reaction, do not immediately go to solutions or telling them what you think about their situation. Everyone loves to throw out solutions because you care about your person. You want their problem to go away. I get it. You want to fix it for them. But if you don't take time to understand their situation, what they've done or not done, what they need, how they're reacting to it, and you just throw out solutions, what you're saying is, I don't actually care what you think about it. Let's just fix it so we can move on. Even if that's not your intention, time and time again, that is how giving solutions immediately is received. For those of you who are listening, who are solution focused, who are reacting to this by going, ooh, yeah, no, that's me. But I love solutions, but I want to fix it for them. But this is exactly how I always show up. I am telling you right now, do not immediately go to solutions. In fact, I want you to think of slowing down with them and letting their frustration exist as the solution. The solution is trying to understand. The solution is curiosity. Curiosity is a tool that you can keep in your toolbox and pull out when life gets hard. Don't give them fixes. Give them space to process and feel. And if you're not sure how to do that, listen to some of my previous episodes. We talk about how to show up in the present moment space with your partner. I talk about how to sit with them in their experience first. Ask questions. Notice and name their feelings. Like my feelings wheel episode. You can say things like, that sounds really stressful. Or, ooh, that's frustrating. Or even, I cannot believe they said that to you. Oh my God, what happened next? And once they've said it all, then I want you to give them explicit options to pick from. Again, this is a tool for you to use. Do you want support, solutions, solitude, or distractions right now? Do not just assume they want solutions from you, because there's a good chance they don't. If someone is hurt or struggling, it can be easier to pick from a menu than it is to know exactly what they need. My partner gave me those options. If I was overwhelmed, it would be a lot easier for me to go, ooh, no, do not give me solutions. Can you just sit with me while I cry? It can be really hard for me to identify my need and find the words. If I'm flooded or overwhelmed and I can't find my words, then I also really struggle to advocate for myself. And then the people in my life end up doing what they think is best for me. And it often misses the mark. And then 2 days later, I'll look at it and process and go, hey, so when I said that thing, that was me trying to ask you to take care of dinner so that I could cry. And instead you just played on your phone until I was hungry enough to cook for both of us. Like that really hurt. But my partner can't read my mind. He doesn't know what's going on. I have to be able to use the words. So if I can't find the words, he's going to miss it. That makes complete sense. So the way my partner can support me is by giving me explicit options and let me pick from one or go, ooh, none of those sound good. Can you keep thinking up things that I might want or need? A layer that can make this even more complicated is that we all have a past. And that past is full of hurts and miscommunications that inform our present day experiences. If someone is falling into an old pattern and feeling hurt and is trying to tell you that they are hurt, and then you fall into an old pattern, then you're going to feel defensive. You're going to feel attacked yourself. You're going to struggle to hear them and what they're struggling with because you're so focused on your own reaction and your need to be heard. Remember? We need to listen to understand, not listen to respond. Try to hear them, even if it hurts you. And then later, you can talk about what hurt you. And maybe they can help you understand your side of it all. So for example, let's say I get really anxious. I know it's a far leap, but go with me on this one. And I was feeling like I really wanted support from my partner, that I just wanted a cozy night at home in our cozy clothes, talking, maybe light a candle. I don't know. Let's say I was just feeling really needy and they had plans to go see one of their friends. In past relationships of mine, friendships took priority and they were always chosen over me, even if I wanted or needed attention. So if I'm feeling needy and my partner goes out with friends, my anxiety might start telling me he doesn't care about you. His friends are more important than you. He'd choose them over you, even if you asked him to stay home. So clearly this isn't what's actually happening in the present moment, right? My anxiety is believing it's true based on past events that are not real anymore, that are not my experience anymore. So I'm having all this in my head and I'm getting more overwhelmed and feeling even more needy. And then let's say he gets home and I'm anxious and upset and overstimulated. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to talk to him. I'm going to give him the cold shoulder. I'm going to feel shut down and hurt. And I'm not going to tell him what's going on. So this might trigger something in him. Why isn't she talking to me? Why is she mad at me? What did I do? I didn't think I did anything wrong. Maybe she doesn't love me. Maybe something changed. Right? His past is going to get triggered in that. Now, let's say I do try to talk to him, but it's full of all the four horsemen. You chose your friends over me. You upset me. How could you do this to me? Notice I'm calling him out. I'm not talking about the situation. He's going to feel criticized. So then maybe he gets defensive. I didn't choose them over you. Why didn't you say anything? This is on you. Defensiveness turned criticism. So in this example, my past pattern showed up in that present moment. And then that hurt him and triggered a past pattern in him, which then hurt me. It is so hard to separate this out because your past is going to lead to feelings of doubt and panic and worry. And then that's going to inform what you think is true about your current relationship. So then you have to figure out, what is the present moment? What is the past? So in this example, in reality, what I'd probably say is, hey, I didn't say it beforehand because I was stuck in my past, but I really wanted you home tonight and you went out with your friends. And so my brain is telling me that you don't care about me. And of course, my partner would then go, oh my God, that's not how I wanted this to go at all. That's not what I meant. Of course I was going to choose you. Like if you told me you were having such a bad day, I would have rain checked on my friend. I would have stayed home. Why didn't you say anything? I wish I could have been there for you. And then I would have been like, I don't know, like my anxiety got in the way. I didn't know how to tell you. Of course, I know you care about me and that if I was having a really bad day, you would be there for me. And then my partner would be like, well, can I be there for you now? Can we do a chill day tomorrow? Let's do this. Let's focus on this. Let's help you feel better. That's what it looks like when we don't give in to the four horsemen. Now, if your partner's past is triggered, they might not actually be talking about you. They might be struggling with a situation in the present moment, but their past might be making it more intense, more difficult to navigate. So if you get triggered and then you start yelling at them or getting defensive, that's only going to lead to your partner not feeling understood or seen. And then it's going to create even more wedges. If you react with one of the horsemen, then you are feeding into that past pattern. But if you can show up with compassion and curiosity and hold space and have patience, even if you're having all of these reactions within you, then you are showing the past pattern that it needs to stay in the past. You can heal it together and build new patterns, new ways of showing up. Now, this is especially difficult if the old pattern is still present in some of your relationships and it still is needed to help keep you safe or help you survive or navigate it. But that doesn't mean you have to show up that way in all of your relationships. So if you can heal and grow and hold space, even if your partner triggered something in you, if you were able to help them externalize and move through it, and then they're calm and in a space to process, then you can check in around if they meant what they said, or ask for reassurance that they didn't mean you, or even share that their comment really hurt you and that you're starting to get filled with doubt, almost like something in you got triggered, huh? You can work as a team to heal your past and prove that it's not your present, instead of feeding into it and just strengthening the need for these patterns to exist. Separate yourself from the situation. Separate your partner from how they reacted, and keep the lifeline open. Hopefully, something we talked about today resonated with you. If it did, let yourself sit with that idea for a little while longer. If you have any questions for this podcast or any themes you'd like us to focus on in the future, send us a message on Instagram at insightswithuspodcast or send us an email at insightswithus@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to hear more, please follow, like, or subscribe. If you want to support the continuation of this podcast, you can donate. To do so, find me, Anastasia Soroka, on buymeacoffee.com. Or you can even have a chance to sponsor an episode. Find Insights with Us now on Patreon. I hope to build exclusive content eventually, but bear with me. My business and world are expanding this year in every direction. I appreciate you, and I appreciate that you are listening. Thank you for creating Insight with Us.